Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Story Hour. I'm Douglas Gwilym, in for Laura Blackwell. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. Daniel Marcus started Story Hour over 5 years ago, in the early days of the pandemic, to help bring people together through stories. Laura Blackwell joined him as co host very shortly thereafter, and together, every Wednesday, they've been bringing you original spoken word speculative fiction read by the authors. We welcome new writers with the ink barely dry on their first few sales, seasoned writers or seasoned veterans with multiple awards, and everybody in between. We also welcome work from every corner of the speculative fiction universe: horror, science fiction, fantasy, the weird, slipstream, and so on. We want to thank SFWA, for those who know SIFWA, for a generous grant to help us to keep the lights on. Tonight, we are very excited to have Robert Nazar Arjoyan and Can Wiggins. Hi, Robert. Hi,
Hey,
Can.
hey,
Hi.
Um, how is everybody tonight? You
Hey,
ready
okay.
to tell stories?
yes.
Um, I'm gonna go right into introduction, Robert. I have a bio here from you.
Okay.
Robert Nazar Arjoyan, he, him, was born into the Armenian diaspora of Los Angeles. Aside from an arguably ill-advised foray into rock and roll bandery during his late teens, literature and movies were the vying forces of his life. Nas graduated from USC's School of Cinematic Arts and now works as an author and filmmaker. When he isn't writing, Nas is likely couch-bound with a good book, jamming with his fantastic son, gut-bust laughing with his wife, who is his best friend, or farting around in the garden with his purple clippers. You can read his stories in Maudlin House, The Deadlands, Silk and Sinew, Ghoulish Tales, Cleaver Magazine, Hobart, Roy Fainéant, Apocalypse Confidential, JMWW, Gone Lawn, The Hooley Review, and River Styx, with more besides and on the way. Find him at www.arjoyan or on socials at Robert Arjoyan. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you, Doug. I'm happy to be here. So do I just go into
Yep.
it?
What do
Yeah.
you have for us tonight?
Well, I have tonight for our story hour crowd a story from Silk and Sinew, as you mentioned a moment ago, which is a excuse me, an anthology on Asian diaspora folk horror. And I sent something in as an Armenian American, and when you think of Asian diaspora and folk horror, Armenian doesn't immediately pop up. Um, but we're in Asia on the west side, and we've had a lot of horrors happen to us over the many centuries that we've been on this planet. So I write stories about that through my lens, my version of what it means to be Armenian. And Christy, the editor, was good enough to accept the story and include it in the anthology. So I'm going to read my entry into that anthology, and it's called New Ancestors. And a content warning, just in case, there's some pretty gnarly body horror and misogyny, I would say. Yeah, like light misogyny with light abuse, but misogyny and abuse nevertheless. So here we go. New Ancestors. They are mirror images of one another, their twinned faces at rest in identical attitudes upon either window of the back seat. One left, one right, the tattered leather armrest, this tableau's folding crease. Armenia's green countryside flies past these reflective brothers, meridians there and gone, there and gone. Blonde, plumy hair, lips pursing and relaxing, long legs bent at acute angles, so near their strapping chests. The single distinguishing deviation which spoils the otherwise perfect illusion is a broken nose, Liam's. Where Logan boasts the subtle bump of their father's Irish line, Liam's nose more resembles their mother's kin, a burst mess of bone and flesh, one smashed pomegranate fallen from the highest branch of the tallest tree. A spill of mauve stains Liam's proud cheeks, his upper lip, his forehead. The siblings blinked in sync when a halting baritone broke the silence. "This you are did was your premier fighting." Liam and Logan looked up in stringed unison, as if one's movements determined the other's. The man in the passenger seat of the Mercedes V-Class watched them through the rearview mirror, waiting with his bushy monobrow raised for some sort of a reply. An evil eye dangled on a chain of suncatcher jewels from its perch. "Sorry, here we go." I don't know if you guys can hear my dog, but closing the door. "He asks if this was your first fight," said the driver, a woman of fine feature, steering the luxury van along the meandering two-lane blacktop. Her English sounded English. "Yeah," said Liam, unproud. "First fight." "Good," said the stout man and clapped. "You are did very good." He reached between and below his legs to rummage and produce a mason jar of clear liquid, its idle sloshing an invitation. Liam and Logan spoke wordlessly in their womb-written language. "Mulberry vodka," the woman clarified. "Homemade." "You are will to drink this, eh? Strong for strong." "Okay," they both answered, stereophonic instinct, and drank. Sips interspersed with coughs, their neophyte throats at once living kilns and tear ducts corroded pipes. "First time for that too, I would wager," said the woman, amusement assuaging her sentence. The palm of her hand smoothed the knitted rim of the steering wheel, that soft, caressing sound, and the boys nodded, their tongues too slick with fire for speech. "Also your first visit to the homeland, from what I understand." "That's true, ma'am," replied Logan, and cleared his larynx, growling. "Yes, Armenia is a place of many firsts," said the woman. She honked at a roadside fruit vendor and twiddled her manicured fingers. "Well, many forgotten firsts, let me say. We founded the first winery and laced the first pair of shoes. We were the first country to ever officially accept Christianity. This was in the 4th century and the first genocide of the 20th century, as you two doubtless are aware. We turned folks on with the first color TV, then saved their souls with the first MRI. When you need cash and stop at an ATM, kiss the mouth of the first Armenian you can find. Yes, we even mapped the heavens with the planet's very first observatory, a sight you will soon behold." "We're excited to behold it," said Logan, adulthood and youth still wrestling for supremacy in his vocal cords. "Aren't we, Liam?" "Oh, sure, nice consolation prize, a 4-hour drive to Corahunch," Liam replied through the wreck of his nose, while staring at an arterial clot of sheep, jumbled wool as far as he could see. The Mercedes slowed to accommodate this passing flock. "Karahunj, not Corahunch," replied the woman, the gentlest of corrections. "Predates Stonehenge by a whopping 4,500 years, but..." Her eyes smiled, all-seeing, as they sized up the twins, and crow's feet danced there on her olive skin. "Your Armenian is not very good, is it?" she asked, finally at full stop. The cross-eyed sheep bleated as they trod the pavement, a further cacophony of hooves and bells. "Between us combined," said Logan, "there's maybe one decent talker." The words stumbled out from behind the fuzzy line of his teeth. Logan licked his gums and tried to taste. "A repulsive crime that will be remedied," she said. The paunchy passenger hissed under his breath, and that blast of spit fluttered his unkempt whiskers. Liam and Logan looked at each other and saw twins of their own twin. What did you say that drink was again?" inquired Logan as best he could. "And we at Dear Diaspora are only too happy to provide such a service for you, this little day trip, in return for your commendable courage and valor." Sheep billowed now on both sides of the car and pinioned it. The jostle of their progress stirred the boys' whisking stomachs. "Hey, my brother asked you a question," slurred Liam. He asked you what was in the jink. That poor girl. And at the hands of her very countrymen, no less. If we do this to ourselves, I ask you, why shouldn't our enemies be so inclined to follow suit? Loga, spluttered Liam. Loga, ka. Thank goodness for you brothers saving that young woman. Liam pawed at his door handle like a lame cat and finally found purchase. It's just a shame, really, bemoaned the driver. Your corrupted blood. Liam nudged the way out, but an instant aroma of animal clawed its way through the ruined tunnels of his nose and ramped his spinning head into a cyclone. Intermarriage perpetuates genocide, you know, offered she, as if sharing her favorite thoughts on how to best wrap dolma or book thrifty travel. Logan crawled across the back to join his brother and escape, but those 2 feet of distance seemed a chasm stretching far beyond his capability. At home in LA, he captained the water polo team of St. Francis High to victory and gold. But just then, in the unknown town of Sarnakunk, stuck amongst tidal livestock, Logan felt weak and powerless. What good is half an Armenian? She asked no one in particular, as anonymous sheep slammed shut the backseat getaway, all trace of her joviality eradicated alongside all hope of their freedom. Liam and Logan trapped in a tunneling world. God has poisoned this country, boys, has spread her festering legs open for rape and pillage and death. Well, Armenia is a land of firsts, and today will be the first day of the rest of her life. Logan took hold of his brother's limp hand as night somehow came at noon. What'd you say that jink was again? Ugh, it tastes just like gas, bro. Jesus. Bartender said it was gin, but it probably is just gas. Or lighter fluid. Fucking Armos. Liam and Logan intoned this condemnation together, the upteenth time after their arrival. Mom had never been back since immigrating to the States as a preteen, and Dad had come to test the reputation of Armenia's brandy straight from the cask, liquor said to be loved above all others by Winston Churchill. The boys didn't have a choice. Summer before college, Cancun might have been their ideal destination. Cheers, Logan said, raising his glass, and Liam clinked it. Cheers. They drank the foul concoction and grimaced. Mom and Dad were enjoying an evening at the opera while their sons savored the pub scene of Yerevan. The twins walked the capital city streets, a head and a half taller than most of the locals, broad-shouldered and fair. By the time they set out from the Marriott and ambled past the fountains in Republic Square, Liam and Logan had drawn stares at every turn, leers which harbored little love. One dude even tossed a crumpled pack of smokes at their feet. Liam stopped, the scuff of his Allbirds audible over a busker's accordion. Forget it, Lee, let's move. Do I look like a trash can to you? The hunched man also stopped. What you says? Put your trash in the trash, asshole. It's not rocket science. Liam, fuck it, dude. No, Lo. Mom and Dad and fucking everybody sends money to these people all the time. Oh, we're poor, we're starving. The Turks, the Azeris, they're taking everything from us. Please help us. But this cocksucker throws his cigarettes at me? While Logan led the water polo team, Liam was the Friday night star of St. Francis, the football team's major deity. He hinted at that with his bold bearing. Way to make us feel welcome, dipshit. On they went, sussing bad from worse, and letting Liam simmer while the sultry evening enveloped them close, as might some sweaty uncle. In the open air between beat-up brutalist apartments, they could see the penumbra of Mount Ararat haunting its former home, a hungry ghost waiting for a dying friend. Do you think Noah really landed up there with the ark and the animals and shit? It's in the Bible, bud, so it must be true. Liam, for real, man, like, don't you feel, I don't know, different here? Like, of all the spots on Earth, why choose Ararat for Noah's Ark to park, huh? I even read, you? Read? About these ancient cartographers mapping Armenia as the Garden of Eden. Again, why? Why here? It's like we're walking through a myth or a fairy tale. Liam was quiet as they skirted a park. Remember in history class the Silk Road stuff? Armenia was like the revolving door, they said. This is an old place. On Pushkin Street, a group of similarly aged kids were entering a bar, maybe 7 of them, and the twins heard with relief the unmistakable patois of Glendale, California. Down? They asked each other as one. Down, they answered in the same fashion. Now, wiping his mouth clean of gin dribble, Logan looked about the place and saw one of the girls from the group, one that had shone under the pub's neon sign. She was tall for an Armenian, tall like him, with long hair which might in private tickle her waist. Lee, see her? Hulo. That girl by the painting. The blonde? No, man, the tall one. Yeah, she's pretty. Logan squinted. I think I know her, bro. Liam clicked his tongue and flicked his finger, evidence of ancestry. Those are Armenian school kids, dude, probably on a senior trip. We don't... Kindergarten. And as if that answer was the answer, the tall girl cut her big eyes across the crowded tavern right at Logan. They then widened like an aperture primed for illumination at the sight of 2 such life forms. Mom had a favorite song, a ballad titled Hai Acher, sung by a bearded badass named Harut. And from what Logan could glean, the lyrics expounded upon the depth and breadth of Armenian eyes, how they cry but laugh, how black clouds always smother them but somehow still strive as ponds of light. Feeling those Armenian eyes on him, Logan picked up what Harut was putting down. Kindergarten, he repeated, and set off for a hello, when 3 men encircled her as if they were vultures and she carrion. If not for their drunken swaying or their grabby hands, it might have been a funny moment, a trio of sleepy tots looking up at their tired mommy. But when the center guy dropped his hairy paw from her shoulder to her breast, Logan moved on the son of a bitch in a second, closing the space between them in 4 practiced bounds. Liam watched as his brother yanked the offender's Caesar bangs and loomed over him, daring him to do something. Even from Liam's distance, the flush of furious embarrassment burned the older man's face as his outnumbered cronies dragged him off. Liam snickered at the trio's hasty retreat, his twin backed up by the tall girl's schoolmates and towering like the mast of a ship. It hit Liam then how they really did stick out in this place where they were meant to fit in. Nothing we can do about that. It also hit Liam then that he needed to find a restroom. 3 tries it took, Liam searching for the Zukharan, when at last a merciful barkeep pointed out the path. Liam shuffled past Logan and the tall girl and ducked into an ill-lit corridor. There was a turnstile at the bathroom's entrance, and Liam's buzzing brain didn't compute its presence. He tried to shove through, but the thing had no give, so he simply hopped it. After a long pee and an internal discussion with his gut about throwing up, Liam washed his hands. When Liam stepped back into the toilet's fenced anteroom, he found Logan's 3 rivals, chests out and scowling. Caesar snarled at Liam in Armenian, racist garbage about his hoard-up heritage. Fuck off with that shit, man. And anyway, you got it all wrong. That was my brother, bro. That wasn't even me, though you had it coming. Aren't you guys married or some shit? You're like 40 and molesting a teenage... The punch came from the left, and it came low. It bent Liam at the waist and stole his oxygen. His gut reprised those vomit conversations and let loose a bilious flow on the attacker's Gucci loafers. So stained, a foot found Liam's face, and thus he heard the foremost crunch. After that, it was just a volley of dizzy pain. Liam sank into a well of his making, deep and dark, each percussion of agony and added weight pushing him fathoms further. It was quiet there in his shaft, and he rolled in its cold waters until something nuzzled his ear. An incendiary huffing so opposite the mute chill from which he was now disturbed. A pleasant wind laced through the skein of his hair, and he felt it twice. The same sensation looped double. Oh, fuck, the van, the drink. They must have drugged him, He shot up, and a wave of misery slapped him down. From the crown of his skull to the tip of his penis, heat paralyzed him, sharp and insistent, nearly alive. It radiated outwards in a terrible stria within and without, the throbbing nexus of his heart pumping deaf to any rhythm he might recognize. He realized a horse had awakened him, and already it stamped some 50 feet away, cropping the grass of its wild abode. Flies harassed the horse, and its flank rippled. He alike detected such spasms electrocuting his body. Some unsupported voice slithered out of nowhere. "How do you find Karahunj, young man?" He attempted to sit up once again, and while the torment was immutable, it was no longer novel. He found himself in the middle of a field, ensconced in a circle of squat stones, themselves surrounded by a gallery of hard-edged rock, jutting out of the soil like a chthonic monster's dentition. Beyond these megaliths, plain and pasture spread beneath a sparkling, star-blown firmament, such as he'd never imagined. The primeval boulders leaned at odd gradients, their strange slant made weirder by a pattern of perfect wounds, circles bored with purpose into their granite integument. And through these numerous spirals, he saw curious eyeballs glinting and groping. From behind the nearest monument emerged the driver, the kind tour guide. "Predates Stonehenge by 4,500 years, but do people know that?" A chorus of "Voch!" rang through the meadow, a unanimous no. Peering through these proto-telescopes, our forebears hailed the heavens and charted celestial migration while Europeans were still negotiating their way down from trees. Legend even says we held court with intelligentsia from space, as depicted in the petroglyphs before you. He looked about as prompted, but only saw more people emerge from the prehistoric pillars. "Where's my brother, ma'am?" he asked, and wondered to whom he referred, Liam or Logan. His head hurt, as if holding on by a thread. "God saw fit to plant his garden here, here," she declaimed with a downward finger, ignoring his question. "Adam and Eve were meant to kickstart life along these hills. This was the very center of the world." Another chorus boomed, "Ayo!" a redoubtable yes. He began to stand and at last took note of his nudity. A lurid red suture crawled its way up the length of his torso, starting from his groin. That gristle looked to him like a marching army of fire ants. His hands traced this surgical seam up, 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 and it never stopped. The boys often woke in the middle of most nights to trade dreams, see if they shared similar reveries. But there in that place where time and sanity were diaphanous, where God had apparently cursed, raised, and salted the earth, he discerned a single nightmare, a horrible truth made visible by the sick lamp of moonlight. A corpse sliced vertically in half lay face down on the dirt, 2 pieces of geometric meat. He heard the woman, but her proclamations were dim, dim. "People have forgotten all the things we've given to them and all the things that have been taken from us. Don't even know about it in most cases, don't even care. Just as the old maps have wiped Eden from Armenia, so too does our atlas neglect its modern erasure." He inched toward the victim and was anew unsure if he'd meet Liam or Logan. "We have yet been trained by our rapists to bend over at will, to freely give what belongs to us." Closer now, but more afraid than ever. The cut was so precise, so clean, as if this thing was made of clay and not skin or skeleton. Even the organs were chopped with museum perfection. Cross-section of intestine, lung, spine, heart, tissue, colon, rib, and brain. Fresher than fear, an opaque sadness slouched upon him. Armenia is a losing place, a place that is being lost every day, a rotting cadaver still being cannibalized, picked apart until not a bone will be left, where no patch of grass can ever again be called Armenia. He could feel the baking fever of his audience, and it transported him back once more to Los Angeles, when he and his twin starred in the school play, a production of the Comedy of Errors. He reached down to flip over the carcass because he had to tell Mom, right? "But you boys are winners." The plural paralyzed his progress. Boys? A new Armenian to make a new Armenia! The ayo, which erupted at this jingoism, came from the ground itself and toppled him amidst the bisected remains. "But what good is half an Armenian?" she asked, and pleasure perfumed her revelation. He lay in the middle of butchery, him the disgusting result, an enantiomorph made manifest by what magical means or medical he could not say. He scrambled away, pushing himself gone with heel and wrist, wishing to die. His braided back struck stone, and he spun round and screamed. A band had begun to perform, and the reedy insouciance of a zurna matched his shattering volume, as if it were his cloven mouth emitting the squeal of celebration, while a deep-throated drum hammered shut any semblance of his original being. Reflecting rock showed him to him, twins halved and stitched as one. The right side of his face was Logan, handsome and unmarred, with Liam the left, nose broken and hideous. It's a little bit a lot, I am sure, but now that you are whole, you shall make us whole. The witnesses cried out like champions, coming conquerors. Ashot, she hollered, bring her out. He, for he no longer knew a name, craned his neck to discover the chubby passenger from eons ago, the man who had offered the jarred narcotic. At the escorting elbow of this Ashot, the tall girl let herself be led. Rise, yelled the tour guide. And he did. Ashot released the tall girl, and she kept gliding closer to him, as might a swan propelled by the calmest breeze. Barev, she said to him. Hello. Barev, he replied, his accent immaculate. Music swelled like orgasm in concert with the cult's exaltations as these new ancestors linked arms. He felt a Tunis then at the naked touch, but those conflicting inputs soon fused into a singularity. The land of many firsts plays host to their first kiss. He tumbles into her gaze, round ponds of light smothered by black clouds. They are Armenian eyes, he thinks. Hayi Acher. And so are mine. Thank you. Oh boy, it got dark.
Thank you, Robert. Wow. I know we err on the side of few words, but so vivid, and the twist is appropriately gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Glad to have you share that here. So we also have Can Wiggins tonight. We have an embarrassment of riches here.
That was a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah. Can Wiggins, are you present?
Oh, I am.
Oh, good. Can
Always.
Wiggins. Oh, all right. Except that, yes, occasionally you leave us. Can Wiggins never met a monster she didn't like, except one. She's been published by Planet X Publications, Oxygen Man Books, Alien Sun Press, Shoggoth.net, Atlanta HWA Anthologies Georgia Gothic, and Weird Fiction Quarterly. Her co-written screenplay, Eidolon, is a modern take on Charlotte Perkins Gilman's The Yellow Wallpaper, and is currently being filmed in Georgia. Her story, 7 Bridges to Go, will appear in the anthology Effigies and Incantations. Edited by D.C. Phillips, it will be out this summer, 2025. Can, thanks for coming to Story Hour.
Thank you for inviting me. Are we ready?
We're ready.
Okay. 7 Bridges to Go. There's this story. It's not a story that's going around, and it's not even my story. My partner Maya told me about it, and I'll tell you the way I heard it, the way her brother Andrew told me. Something happened to him and some of his friends a long time ago where they grew up. Something weird, something uncanny. It involves a cursed place, or as folks there call it, that place, where people, mostly teenagers, still go, either on a dare or to check it out. Anyway, they all saw something. And some of them are okay with it, and some of them are not. Of course, folks that go to that place don't go back to it. Why would they? It's a one time is enough place. It's a place for kids who are looking for a laugh, a spooky-ooky time. But that doesn't always work out. Sometimes they don't get a laugh at all. And it's not an easy trip. You have to cross 7 bridges to get to it, all of them dangerous, unstable. And then you have to cross them again to come back home. There's no other way to get there and back again. But, like everyone says, the kids love to go there. Once. They come back either pissed off or spooked, or maybe in some cases a little lucky if they've got a date. The girl gets scared, or she pretends she's scared, and the guy puts his arm around her, and before you know it, they're messing around in the car. Maybe. It's a ritual, a rite of passage. That place has reached near mythic status in Ephesus, a small town located near outside between in what's called hill country. There's a couple of churches, 2 elementary schools, a high school, and a barely there hospital. Long closed cotton mills were recently turned into 1- and 2-bedroom apartments. The town is fighting the inevitable with everything it's got, but will likely be gone in less than 50 years. What happened to Andrew and his friends took place during summer vacation. It's the perfect place to go on an adventure. School's out, daylight lasts longer, your folks aren't always around, so you're on your own. You can do whatever you want, within reason. And while everyone knows what the heat's like in the South now, back then, nothing prepared you for the brutality of that bone-melting heat. July was bad, but August was a hellscape. Nothing stopped the sun and the humidity. People couldn't go out except to and from a car to go to and from work or to and from school or to and from visiting friends. Most folks didn't have a car with an AC, so they traveled with all their windows rolled down. Pay attention to that particular detail. It's going to show up again. 7 bridges to go, Andrew said. Delbert leaned forward from the back seat in Buddy's car. What? He hollered. Between the AM/FM and the wind roaring through the car, it was hard to hear what anyone said. Riding shotgun, Andrew turned around as Buddy cut the music. 7 bridges to go until we get there, he repeated. I figure the sun will be setting by the time we reach that place. The haunted church? Asked Delbert. Andrew grinned at him. Delbert knew he was probably being set up, but he tended to be good-natured. Plus, he had found a bunch of guys he fit right in with. They pulled pranks, sure, but they weren't mean. They liked the same music and movies he did. And they all had a stash of comics like he did. Like Delbert, they knew that calculus was a given, but girls were a mystery. Looking forward to his senior year at Ephesus High, Delbert hoped this town would be his last move for a while. He was tired of being an army brat, taking off whenever to wherever. He wanted to have more than a few months in a town before his family moved again. He was tired of making friends and then losing them over and over. Have you all been here before? He asked, just as Frank horned in. It's not haunted, it's cursed. There's a difference. Cursed? Delbert's eyebrows moved towards his hairline. Haunted was one thing. Cursed? That was something else. Yeah, Andrew said. So people say it's cursed because some devil worshippers or witches or something came in and defiled it. The story is they busted out the windows and took a crap on the altar. But I'm telling you, nobody took a crap on the altar because the church didn't have an altar. Oh, and by the way, nobody left a goat head on that fucking podium either. Andrew paused, and Buddy burst out laughing. Frank picked up the story. That church is so plain it looks like an old Quaker meeting house. There were benches for the congregation, but most of them went out the door and nobody knows where to. The carpet got worn down to the nub, but I ain't surprised as old as it is. Never had more than 200 members. There was a choir behind the pulpit, and there was a piano that probably worked once upon a time, but most of its keys got busted. Delbert shook his head, grinning. These guys sure knew how to spin a story. But his mom said that was a Southern thing. Storytellers, moonshiners, bullshitters. Whatever it was, he was fine with it, and he paid attention to whatever web they spun for him, the newcomer. After what seemed like hours, but was really only one, they hit the first bridge. Buddy Monroe wasn't stupid. He took his foot off the gas just as he hit the bridge, and the Impala's momentum carried them over the shaky structure, its rusting metal clanging its distress. Frank poked a finger in Delbert's ribs. 6 bridges to go, he announced. Delbert laughed, and the sunlight followed the boys as they made their way to the church, one bridge at a time, each crossing more heart-stopping than the last. Slow as molasses, the car finally reached its destination and rolled to a stop, ending up on what had once upon a time been a makeshift parking space for parishioners of the cursed church. Now it was a placeholder for cars full of curiosity seekers, with weeds and wildflowers pushing through the fissures for decoration. Somebody's piss-poor attempt at a blacktop had cracked and crumbled long ago. Delbert jumped out of the car first, glad to have his feet on solid ground once again. Even with the wind whistling through the vehicle, his shirt had ended up sticking to his back from the heat. Plus, every time the Impala had gone over one of those god-awful bridges, he had thought they were going to meet their maker. The last bridge had literally swayed, metal screaming like a living thing as Buddy guided the car to the other side, sweet-talking his vehicle as if it harbored more than nuts and bolts covered by a fancy paint job. Jesus, let's not do that again, Frank blurted. He stretched his long limbs, grinning. I mean, after we get back home this time, of course. If we do get back home. Let's put this one to rest, guys. Right, but like you said, we got to get back first, Andrew said, the same way. Oh, shit. 7 bridges to go, Buddy said. Their laughter bounced off the canopy of trees and vines and heat, the last of the setting sun's rays slicing through the green. The sound landed around them with a hollowness, with a dull plunk, as if the sound had nowhere else to go. So it stopped short, caught in the air, waiting in a place where nothing is there but nothingness itself. They stood as if rooted, like the massive oaks and pines around them, only their eyes moving to catch sight of anything out of place. But they saw nothing. They looked at each other, gauging reactions. Come on, Andrew said. His voice sounded weird, hollow, cushioned, muffled. Hell, I don't know what this shit is, Frank said. It's like an anechoic chamber. The boys stared at Delbert, who grinned. My dad told me about him. Military. The boys nodded, accepting their new friend's explanation. It didn't help with the creepiness that they felt, but it was a scientific explanation, and like most who have been placated, they were good with it. They headed towards the church, now easily visible, a couple of 100 yards away. As they grew closer, Delbert saw the church was nothing but an old brick and wood building. It sagged around its edges, as if tired, like it was trying to sit down. The building showed signs of damage, inflicted not only by Mother Nature, but Father Time, and all the things these two bring, including neglect, if not outright abandonment. Nosing around, Delbert saw a row of markers on one side of the church. Drawing closer, the other saw worn-down stones with faded names, small, chiseled lambs resting atop more than a few. Kids' graves, Buddy's voice was a whisper. Shit. I never saw those before, Andrew said, and I've been up here twice. I don't know anybody that would want to be buried up here now. Those people and their relatives are all long gone, Frank said. Buddy grunted and shook his head as they all turned toward the church itself, ready to go inside and see what was what, or, more likely, what was not. Delbert hoped none of the guys saw him shiver, while Andrew hoped he wouldn't have to revive anyone. Frank and Buddy had said earlier they were down for anything, but the dead zone they'd just stepped away from had unnerved them both. The boys walked down the dirt path that led to the church proper, still looking around, just because they could, just because it was there. You know how kids are. In the back, while there were a multitude of old graves and markers, some of them moss-covered, there also stood a forest. They heard birdsong, faint and shrill, as they readied to slog up the dozen or more stone steps, slick from wear, tear, and weather. Might be locked, Frank said, turning to face the others. Hell, I'd lock it myself. Keep people out so there ain't no more damage. There's not any damage, I swear, Andrew said. A few of the piano's keys are busted, the carpet's messed up, and there aren't any benches, just like you said, but there's no real damage. No water damage, no animal shit, no birds nesting, no signs of people having a picnic. Well, he amended, the last time I was here anyway. When was that? Buddy asked. That was last summer. And no goat heads, Frank cracked, nudging Delbert. And no goat heads, Andrew repeated. Buddy laughed, the others joining in. And then the sound of their good time rang hollow, metallic, not unlike a bell calling someone or something to come to dinner. They stifled their laughs, eyes rolling as they looked around for anything amiss. Let's get this over with, Frank suddenly blurted. I want to get out of here. Sorry, Delbert, I just feel like... He hitched one shoulder, and his voice sounded almost shaky, his cheeks splotched. The others nodded in agreement and, moving as one, prepared to simply walk into the church. They didn't make it in. They didn't even make it up the steps. A sudden sound startled them, enough to turn them around to see what was happening, and then something burst out of the trees, something big, not recognizable at all. Not a thing any of them recognized then or later in their fevered dreams. Their voices hushed, if and when they spoke about it with each other. They all screamed, of course they did, and then they ran for the car. And as those boys ran across that scrub brush and then the graveyard, they felt relief, even as near crippling terror threatened to freeze them in their tracks. They were going to the car. They were going home. They were getting the hell out of there. But it upended almost immediately into confusion and disbelief. All the doors to the car were wide open. The windows were down. Andrew didn't know what the others felt just then, but he successfully tamped down the fear that coursed through his body, a fear so profound he never found a way to describe it. Because he knew, they all knew, they'd rolled up those windows. They'd closed those goddamn doors. Andrew dove into the back seat, sliding on the plastic upholstery, ending up on his knees and looking out the back window. The car rock and rolled as everyone slammed into the Impala, all of them yelling. Hell, they were screaming. What they saw, they didn't talk about for a long time. Andrew paused, and we sat there for a moment. Then he continued. What I saw was He stopped and then asked, You ever see a dog walk on its hind legs? I nodded, yeah. It's awkward. Not natural, right? It can do it, sure. A dog can be trained to do that, but it's not natural for the animal to walk on its hind legs. And that's what this thing looked like, only this thing wasn't a dog, and it was big. As big as a man, maybe bigger, muscular, running after us, running toward us. Buddy jumped in the car and cranked it up and took off after what seemed like forever. But it only took a second. Maybe it did take forever. Time sort of stopped. It's like I saw the thing running slow, but it wasn't slow, not really. And we were all screaming, go, go, go. And then Buddy peeled out of there. But that thing, it kept coming. I mean, it was gaining on us. Could it have been? My voice trailed off. He stopped and stared at me. It wasn't someone in a suit. It wasn't a bear, and it wasn't a dog, but it looked like one, sort of. I don't know what it was, but it was just this thing. Buddy and I used to roll that back and forth. What was it? What was it? But it always ended up in the same place at the beginning and at the end. Like a dog, but not a dog. Wolf-like, but not a wolf. Hell, I don't know. Our burgers and cokes arrived, interrupting us. We took a break and chowed down. And of course, we didn't talk about it. Instead, we talked about living in Athens versus Atlanta. We talked about comics, streaming shows we liked, 70s music, other friends he and Maya had always known, and I'd come to know through our shared friendship. But when that ended and the bill was paid and the server insisted there was no hurry and to take our time, we went back to the story. It wasn't over. I knew something stranger was coming. Andrew started up again, his voice quiet, mood changed. Most people maintain their sanity, not by mistrusting their own senses or doubting themselves while they've talked out of whatever is right in front of them, but by believing their own eyes, believing what is right there, right in front of them. I still see Delbert now and then. Buddy died in Vietnam. That almost killed me. Hell, it did kill his mama. But Frank wasn't the same after that. I mean, not really. A lot of folks ask, well, where is he? Is he missing? Where's he gone? But he's not missing. He's just not seen. I cracked a joke, like the Invisible Man. Frank started going back in, Andrew said. Back in? He nodded. Yeah, back in. Back into that place. He couldn't stay away. He said he was visiting. His words, visiting. A chill snaked its way down my back. And then one day he went in, and as far as I know, he's still in there. Or not. We paid our checks and left, hugging and patting each other on the backs. I thought about those bridges, the 7 bridges to go, the ritual of a good but ultimately safe scare. Kids do it all the time. They goose each other. They jump out from a hiding place with a scream. We wear a mask for trick or treat, while we also hold a bag for chocolates. It gets everyone ready for the real scare that finds us all sooner or later. Maya was waiting for me in the car. 4 minutes left on the meter, and I popped my skinny self into our car, ready to head back to Atlanta. But just as we left the city limits, Maya looked at me, and I looked at her. Then we rolled down a stretch of highway where she turned left at a particular crossroads, and we headed toward Ephesus. That's it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Can.
You're welcome.
We had so much great subtle humor from both of you tonight. It's like, I'm just a sucker for like I need that tiny human touch of levity, and you both were masterful at that tonight, and I really enjoyed it and appreciated it.
Thank you.
Thanks for the monster, Can. We can count on you for the monster.
Mm-hmm. Always.
Daniel, you have anything you want to interject here, or are we on our way out? Oh, your microphone is off.
I have absolutely nothing to add. The stories and the wonderful readings by the authors just completely spoke for themselves. But
As they should.
as I just posted in the Zoom chat that both stories there's just an incredible blend of weird and prosaic that was just so effortless and just compelling. I was riveted by both stories.
Well said.
Thank you.
Well then, next week, our readers are David Naxagoras and Karen Osborne. I recommend checking storyhour2020.com the day of the reading for any announcements or changes. Storyhour2020.com is also a great place to learn about upcoming authors and see what Story Hour has streamed over the past 5 years. You can watch programs you've missed on YouTube. We've been in the process of getting those up there. The link is at storyhour2020.com. Subscribe to Story Hour on YouTube and you won't miss anything. That's my recommendation. Robert and Can, thank you for sharing your stories. What a wonderful night. Thanks to
Thank you for
Sifwa.
asking me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So great to have you. Thank you to Sifwa, the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers Association, for helping to fund Story Hour. Thank you to Daniel Marcus, without whom this Zoom room would be a barren and lonely place. And thank you, all of you, for joining us in spinning the fictive dream.
Thank you, Doug.
My pleasure. I'm Douglas Gwilym,
Well,
and good night from Story Hour.
Good night.